Hi there guys. Okay, so this is the second training video with Knightsbridge Trading Academy. I'm Matt Shaw, Chief Analyst, and this is the best place to source your fundamental data. Now, I thought this is quite fitting because we're due for a release of certain data in the US in half an hour's time, so I thought I would do this video just before that. So as you can see, we've got our chart here, just following on from the first video actually. Our chart that we set up, we first of all, at our original chart, we set up a new chart that is with our pivots, moving averages, RSI and MACD. But we're going to trade. I've got a trade running here that just opened up, just testing some things here, actually a new sort of technical strategy with pound dollar. So we're currently up nearly 850 on that, but this kind of goes into pretty much the fundamental aspect. It carries it over quite nicely. The place I get my data from and information through minute by minute, hour by hour is forexlive.com. Now, obviously these are sponsored massively. They've got ads all over the place, so ignore those, well, if you like, but this is just free data, okay? Now, obviously they offer some great analysis. There is certain segments there by other commentators, other market commentators you can get, and all sorts of information can be got from this. Now, I just use the economic calendar and I look at some of the headlines. That's all I want to be aware of, is the headlines. Now, for instance, we go to economic calendar. That's what we're on right now on Forex Live. Again, on the right-hand side, we've got technical analysis, all the headlines there, and the immediate data that's just come out. Now, interestingly enough, we've got the pound-dollar trade running right now on the account that I'm just testing a strategy with, and this was open a few days ago. As you can see, I'm actually now in profit. There's never a guarantee, but pretty much guaranteed profit, whatever happens. The entry price is 129.77. The stop loss is now 129.27, so I'm guaranteed 50 pips pretty much. The current price is 128.67, so it's sold off over 110 pips since our entry. Since our entry on the 11th. So this is where we are right now. Now, pretty much we're there. I'm got my stop loss 129.27, pretty much 60 pips away from the current price. So with this fundamental data coming out, already this morning we had a miss with GBP data. So bearing in mind, I'm looking at pound and dollar. So what you want to be aware of is what country are you trading? I'm trading pound dollar right now. So for me, I got to look at the following day. Each night or each morning, I look at the following trading day. Now it's 1 p.m. on Tuesday, the 15th of August. So already this morning, I was well aware of the GBP data coming out. Let me just change the time span on there. Yeah, we want +1 because it's still summertime. So 9:30 p.m. Excuse me, 9:30 p.m. we had PPI data and also core CPI. Now, here CPI year on year was the main figure, 2.6%. It just missed expectations of 2.7%. Also as well, CPI month on month, just missed it as well. Now, what you want to do each night before you go to bed, or first thing in the morning at 5, 6 a.m., just before the day starts, or 7 a.m., you want to look at the day ahead and think, right, what am I looking potentially to trade? Am I looking at any news in Europe? You look here, EUR, this is German figures coming out. Have I got a yen trade? Maybe I'm trading euro yen. So for this day, we want to be aware of Japanese yen and also the euro data. So you do not want to be, the actual rule of thumb is do not trade or open a trade 30 minutes before any important economic data. Myself personally, I don't open any trades that day. I always wait until at least half an hour after the data comes out. Now this trade I already have running it's not new. This was opened on the 11th, as you can see here, the 11th of August. So it's running. I've lowered my stop loss. Each time the market sold off, I brought my stop loss down with it, and now it's 50 pips into profit. So no matter, even if the market rallied up 60 pips, I'm still 50 pips in profit. So let's go back to the calendar. It's probably the best thing to do, and what I normally do, I look at the data the previous evening. So late at night, just before I go to bed, I simply look at my calendar and I say, right, let's look at the day ahead, because the yen data, for instance, that can come out at 3 a.m., 5 a.m., even 1 a.m. So it's always better to do it the night before and be aware of all times during the next session when the data is due for release. Does that make sense? Good. Now, today for me, what's important for me today was the pound data. Now, I had my stop loss already there, 50 points in profit. Well, actually, sorry, it wasn't before. I had it at break even. So just before it went into the data, my stop loss was 129.75 actually, so I was 2 pips in profit. Then after it sold off, just as the data came out, I gradually pulled my stop loss into profit, and since then it's completely tumbled. So I'm well over 60 pips away from the current price and 50 pips in profit with my stop loss. Now, moving on from the pound data, this can really seal it today. So we've got core retail sales out in 25 minutes. It's 1:05 nearly in the UK. So I'm just going to leave my stop loss there in place. If I get stopped out, I've still made 50 pips. If this is solid data, or at least as the market expects, the market will indeed tumble even further. Pound dollar will sell off even more, and this trade will be in more of a profit. Again, it's a demo trade. I wish it was a real trade, but it will be in more of a profit. Again, this is for demonstration purpose only. So, and that is that. But fundamentally, you do not open a new trade. Now, for instance, if you were looking at the pound dollar from scratch, say on a 4-hour chart, this could look a tempting signal to sell. There are certain things we look at here with our training and our trading days and our training packages that could hint in and around this time, possibly there could be a sell signal at some point of the 15th of August. But we would never get in now. I wouldn't have even got in this morning, because I know in a few hours' time there's data, and obviously we had the pound data anyway out earlier this morning at 9:30. So for me, I will want to wait at least until half an hour after the data has come out, just to let things settle and the market has factored everything in. So after this, we'll probably leave this trade run, and maybe if this goes in the way we want, we may indeed add to the position for my real account as well. I may indeed add another sell on pound dollar. Conversely, we must take into consideration if there is bad news out in the US also, and it misses expectations in the US, pound dollar may well have found a bottom here at 128.70 and then begin to rally. So if you're opening a new trade right here to sell just before the data release, say for instance 128.80, put your stop loss here at 129 or 129.10, the market could leap 30-40 pips, because the dollar could then sink and the pound could then gain. So that's why it's dangerous trading just before an announcement. You could get stopped out and lose even more than your stop loss, because if your stop loss was, say for instance 20 to 30 pips above the current price, which is now 128.83, if your stop loss was here at say 129.10, if this market came up with an absolute dismal figure and things looked, the retail sales number was terrible, again a huge data release by the way for the US is retail sales. If this was a terrible figure and missed it by maybe 1% or so, or 0.5%, this could leapfrog 60 pips and then begin quoting. The liquidity providers in the market may only then give the brokerage a quote at a much higher level, in which case you're down 50, 60 pips. It will have leapfrogged your stop loss and given the next quote 20, 30 pips, maybe even more above that. So you will not have got out at your stop loss. You will have got out at a much worse level and lost more than you'd anticipated. So always bear in mind, just before a huge data release, one like retail sales, and again, FOMC, Fed releases, CPI, PPI data, retail sales, again, housing numbers, anything like that in the US, and again, Bank of England for the UK, Euro, you've got ECB data, anything like that, never trade before. Anything with 3 bulls next to it, you do not trade half an hour before. And for me personally, I'm not saying to do this for yourself, but for me personally, I don't trade anytime that day before the announcement. I always wait until at least 30 minutes after the announcement. And even if things aren't settled then, I'll still leave it. But if things look settled after 30 minutes, then at any signal that pops up after that, I'll look to get in. But at least that. If things do not look settled after 30 minutes, I simply leave for a little bit longer, maybe even the rest of the day, and come back the next day. So anything, again, let's look for tomorrow. Again, you should be getting into the rhythm of doing this yourself. Elvis's anniversary, the death of his anniversary of his death, the 16th of August, always remember that date. Now we've got average earnings index. Again, that's a 3 bull, so the importance, this is 3 bulls for the pound. So if you're looking to trade pound tomorrow morning, again, not before 9:30, wait until after 10 a.m. The US, we've got building permits. Again, it's a 3 bull, so you wait until after 3:30 UK time for the release, and then look to then trade after 4 p.m. UK time and let things die down. Crude oil inventory is quite a big deal as well. And again, we've got FOMC meeting minutes, huge data release in the US, one of the biggest 3 bulls. So to be honest with you, if things weren't really settled after this data release here, at 1:30 then 3:30, I still wouldn't look to get in before at any time during this period here, this 3-4 hour period, because we've got this release at 7 o'clock. I'd probably like to factor everything in, let the market settle after 7:30, 8 p.m. UK time after this release, and then maybe trade then only if there's a glaring opportunity. If there's not, let the dust settle and come back the next day. There's no harm in leaving a trade fall by the wayside. There's always tomorrow. So again, Forex Live, great free website, can complement your trading. I'm 20 minutes to go before the release. This is 735, 740 pounds in profit. So we'll just leave this run and see where it goes. Thank you very much, guys. I'll speak to you soon.